Snow White is the newest in a long line of Disney's live-action remakes, and the House of Mouse should keep some concerns in mind before it dives into the next one. Over the last couple of decades, Disney has proven that live-action remakes of original animated classics have great potential. Movies like The Jungle Books, 1994, and Cinderella, 2015, managed Rotten Tomatoes critics' scores of about 80%, which is undoubtedly impressive. Unfortunately, Snow White and other live-action remakes performed far worse. Though Disney's live-action Snow White remake had potential, the film seemed to disappoint critics. It currently holds a 47% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, with some reviews going as far as calling Snow White unwatchable. This isn't the first time that a live-action remake has flopped. Within the last decade, Pinocchio, 2022, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, 2019, Dumbo, 2019, and more have failed to raise above a 50% score. This is concerning, especially since Disney hasn't slowed down its plans to adapt more classics to live action. So, there are several things the company should keep in mind. Disney's live-action remakes have relied too much on CGI. Example, Snow White's dwarfs. One of the most prominent complaints regarding the Snow White remake is that the 7 dwarfs were brought to the screen through CGI rather than live actors. It seems that Disney hoped to maintain the animated feel of these magical beings, but the result was, ultimately, unsettling. This same complaint has popped up for several of Disney's live-action remakes, especially those that mixed real actors with CGI creatures. The Little Mermaid, 2023, is another that struggled in this regard. While the movie managed a fair 67% Rotten Tomatoes critic score, the CGI sea creatures didn't look natural next to real-life people. Disney must find a way to eliminate that uncanny valley sensation that the movies inspire. Or, it may be better for the House of Mouse to entirely avoid movies that mix humans and animals into live action. 6. Disney's live-action remakes often shift the themes of the originals. True love now takes a back seat. Another reason Snow White struggled to impress is that the themes of the 1937 movie were shifted. In the remake, Snow White no longer wished for true love. Instead, the movie focused on her aspiration to live up to her father's rule. While it's clear that Disney is attempting to avoid the old stereotypes that older movies often adopt, overly modernized remakes have proven themselves a problem. Some Disney remakes have managed this better than others. The elimination of Snow White's Big Wish in 2025 Snow White was frustrating, but Jasmine's desire to be Sultan in Aladdin, 2019, was far better handled. In the latter case, changing Jasmine's desires didn't shift the overarching themes of the movie, so the adjustment felt organic in the end. This is a lesson Disney must apply to its future projects. 5. Disney's live-action remakes haven't prioritized vocal talent when casting. Live-action movies have sometimes had different priorities. Emma Watson as Belle singing in The Village in Beauty and the Beast. Among Disney's more concerning choices with its live-action remakes is the casting of actors with minimal vocal experience. Most of these movies are musicals, and it's terribly obvious when the chosen stars are unable to sing their respective songs. Rather than cast singers, extensive audio editing was used to keep the stars on key. In the case of Snow White, Rachel Zegler did a phenomenal job performing her various songs. However, movies like Beauty and the Beast, 2017, were criticized for casting Emma Watson only to edit her singing voice past the point of recognition. Disney has managed significant improvement in this regard, as evidenced by the casting of actors like Zegler or Halle Bailey in The Little Mermaid. However, in both movies, some of the supporting actors fell short in their vocal performances. Snow White was Gal Gadot's first musical role, which meant that the Evil Queen's new song wasn't as spectacular as it could have been. Disney's live-action movies must prioritize vocal talent as much as its animated projects do. 4. A live-action remake's visuals must justify the switch from animation. What's the point if it's not even more beautiful? Snow White is in front of a forest with a cottage in Snow White custom image by Danny Kessel-Odom. One of the benefits of animation is that anything that could possibly be imagined can be brought to the screen. Even a movie as old as Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs features breathtaking visuals thanks to the meticulous detail put into every cell of animation. This is a bit trickier with live action since sets must be constructed or CGI utilized. There were several gorgeous scenes in Snow White, but many others lacked the whimsical artistry of the animated versions. The Little Mermaid was criticized for a similar reason. The original animated movie was bright and colorful, but the live-action version fell completely flat in comparison. Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast were lovely, but Mulan and Dumbo were gray and uninteresting. Though live-action should typically look more realistic, taking a colorful masterpiece and watering it down to create a dull imitation doesn't justify the effort it took to adapt.